Well, from wherever you're watching us in Kayega here in Kenya, all the way to Kivu in Congo, this is KBC Prime Edition, coming to you live from Broadcasting House in Nairobi, Kenya. Good evening. My name is Mboya. This live broadcast begins right now.
We would want our children to learn in a safe and clean environment. And we also would not want them to miss their lessons for a long time. And so we've agreed that we are going to suspend learning for some time as we address the key issues.
Sacred Heart Mukumu girls scarred after 2 students die of suspected food poisoning and another 500 fall ill. The Director of Public Prosecutions drops participation in illegal assembly charges against opposition leaders.
We want an international financial system that is fair to everybody.
President William Ruto rallies African leaders to join forces in tackling climate change. Thank you very much indeed for joining us. Our sign language interpreter is Lensa Odingo. Our socials at KBC Channel 1 and my Twitter handle at Mboya24. Let's begin with that story that would give any parent sleepless nights. The Sacred Heart Mukumu Girls High School in Kayega, Kakamega County, will remain closed indefinitely. And the reason is 2 students have died of suspected food poisoning. Over 500 students have been exposed to bacterial infection after consuming contaminated food. Kakamega Governor Ferdinand Baraza says that the decision to close the school was arrived at after a consultative meeting that took place between the health officials and other stakeholders in that county. Let's listen into that sad report tonight.
In the morning at the Sacred Heart Mukumu Girls in Kakamega County, parents picking their children who showed symptoms of food poisoning. They are among more than 500 out of the 2,000 students at the school infected with the bacteria after consuming contaminated food. Kakamega Governor Ferdinand Baraza, who together with education and health officials visited the institution, confirmed that 2 students have died.
Our condolences to the families and friends of those 2 girls that we lost on Friday and yesterday morning, and we are going to do everything possible at least to take preventive action. Reports
from Kakamega Referral Hospital, where most of the students were hospitalized, showed the students presented with diarrhea, vomiting and dizziness. 1 student is in intensive care unit.
Na tunaomba county government, tuko hapa na chief officer, wazazi hawana pesa mingi. Tunaomba ya kwamba wa extend an olive hand hapo kwa hospitali ya Kakamega, wakuwe na ward yenye wazazi hawatalipa.
With the cause of the infection yet to be established a week after the infection cases were first reported, Governor Baraza says samples of water taken to the Kenya Medical Research Institute, KEMRI, for investigation were declared safe.
We are still waiting for the culture results so that we can establish the root cause, especially getting the medical cause of the situation here. We have also taken food sample tests, and the food handlers have also been taken for certification.
Same time last year, similar cases were reported.
Very regrettable. I am here with the Directorate of Quality Assurance. They investigated the issue last year, made findings, made recommendations, but those findings were not acted upon, and this is why this has recurred.
We've agreed that we are going to suspend learning for some time as we address the key issues that we strongly believe have led us to this.
Kamche Menza for Prime Edition.
Now, the Director of Public Prosecution, Nudin Haji, has dropped charges against Mboya Kenya leaders, which included unlawful demonstration and malicious damage of property. Through a prosecution counsel, the DPP informed the court that the withdrawal of the cases would facilitate dialogue between the government on one end and the opposition on the other. Here's that report.
Including Ugunja MP Opiyo Wandayi, Kilifi Senator Stewart Madzayo, Kilifi South MP Richard Chonga, and Malindi MP Amina Mnyazi were discharged by Kahawa Law Court Senior Principal Magistrate Boaz Mboya after the Director of Public Prosecution dropped their charges. The move, the DPP's office explains, was made to allow dialogue between the government and the opposition, as stated by President William Ruto and opposition leader Raila Odinga on Sunday. George Yogo Obure and Esther Oromi, who were co-accused alongside the MPs, were also discharged. The six had been accused of taking part in unlawful assembly together with others not before the court. Through their lawyer Danstan Omari, they thanked the state and the judiciary for withdrawing the case.
For the sake of justice, hivi kwamba sababu hakukuwa haki hawakushtakiwa, sasa haki wameachiliwa. For the sake of peace, ili kuleta uwiano na amani katika taifa la Kenya, lazima viongozi hawa wangeachiliwa ndio amani iweze kuendelewa.
However, similar cases facing 200 protesters in Kibera, Kiambu and Makadara courts are still on. Vishok Washira, Prime Edition.
Now, Kenyans have welcomed the move by President William Ruto and opposition leader Raila Odinga to dialogue through a bipartisan engagement in resolving what they termed tense political stalemate. Speaking to KBC Channel 1, leaders and Kenyans from all walks of life around the country expressed optimism in the political outlook going forward. Let's listen into that report.
We turned down our demonstrations for Monday.
On Sunday, Raila called off demonstrations that were scheduled for Monday, April the 3rd, to allow engagement with the state on the reconstitution of the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission, IEBC. The move follows President William Ruto's proposal for consideration of a bipartisan parliamentary engagement to address Raila's concerns regarding the recruitment of new IEBC commissioners. This has led to positive reactions from a majority of Kenyans.
Sasa unaona kukiwa na mazungumzo kati ya watu wawili kutakuwa sawa. Kuna wale watu walikuwa wamefunjika huko miguu, mkono, wengine wakapoteza maisha. Ameona hayo maneno yote ni machafu. Ameamua tujenge Kenya, tupeleke Kenya mbele.
In Meru County, Azimio One Kenya Alliance supporters and leaders appreciated the move, commending the president for promising to listen to Azimio One Kenya's grievances.
Raila, sisi baba, ukienda pale ongea kuhusu wa Meru, ongea kuhusu wa Kenya wote.
Elsewhere, the business community in Nakuru County have also lauded the development, saying it will boost trade.
At least now, we will move forward. Tutaweza kufanya biashara zetu vizuri, biashara zitaenda poa.
At the same time, the United States government, through its ambassador to Kenya, Meg Whitman, released a statement following the truce. In the statement made on the social media platform Twitter, Meg Whitman stated that the truce the two leaders announced in two separate statements and the subsequent dialogue would benefit Kenyans greatly. President Ruto had earlier set the stage for the ceasefire in a televised address to the nation, regretting that the 2 weeks of protests had caused the deaths of 3 people, with several others injured, and ruined the economy. Alan Oko, Prime Edition.
Well, Kenyans there from Turkana all the way to Meru, Nakuru, reacting to President William Ruto and opposition leader Raila Odinga's decision to dialogue through that bipartisan mechanism. Now, meanwhile, President William Ruto has appealed to the African continent to undertake concerted efforts to win the war on climate change. The head of state, who launched the 3rd regional symposium on greening judiciaries in Africa, emphasized the need for fair international development financing in terms of accessibility, affordability, and also adequacy, so as to help the continent to deal with the climate change burden. 30 Chief Justice and heads of delegation from across the continent of Africa are attending that 3-day forum.
3-day third Greening Judiciary Symposium themed strengthening the role of the judiciary in addressing climate change has kicked off in earnest in the capital, Nairobi. President William Ruto noted institutional reconfigurations and economic resets emanating from this change will install Africa as the world's green economic superpower.
We are not saying we want an international financial system that is favorable to Africa. No. We want an international financial system that is fair to everybody. Having a fair international financial system is not asking for too much.
The head of state further challenged the judiciary to develop a polluter pays principle in compliance with the United Nations General Assembly resolution that calls for the world's biggest emitters to take responsibility of their actions.
The first reason is the fact that Africa is by far the least polluting continent, yet it is by far the most adversely affected by climate change. The brunt of these adverse effects and impacts has been borne by vulnerable African population.
President Ruto's sentiments were echoed by Kenya's Chief Justice Martha Koome, the chairperson Africa Judicial Education Network on Environmental Law, and the Assistant Secretary General UNEP Elizabeth Mrema.
Within this context, that our courts must play a decisive role in driving the adaptation, mitigation, and resilience building efforts required to combat climate change.
Judges must be adequately capacitated to adjudicate complex climate change disputes.
As the world regrettably crosses the 1.5 degrees centigrade limit of global warming, Africa could be approaching catastrophic levels of up to 3 degrees centigrade rise in temperatures.
The Speaker of the National Assembly, Moses Wetangula, vowed to ensure legislation on matters climate will be given top priority.
Any legislative proposals that comes to Parliament on many matters, but particularly on environment, will be given top priority.
Kenya is committed towards planting 15 billion trees to achieve 30% forest cover by 2032.
After the third symposium in Nairobi, all of us in the judiciary in Africa will be expected to think green, to think climate change.
The regional symposia on greening judiciaries in Africa are organized by the Africa Judicial Education Network on Environmental Law.
Previously, the Continental Symposium was held in Johannesburg, South Africa, and Maputo, Mozambique. Seraphine Nairobi for Prime Edition.
Kenyan head of state there saying that the continent desires a system that's fair for everybody and not a system that's favorable to Africa. That's a tweetable statement. Now, the State Department for Correctional Services is working towards ensuring smooth integration excuse me, of offenders back into the society once they complete their jail term. Principal Secretary Mary Muthoni says going forward, her ministry will help ex-offenders to rebuild their lives.
Speaking during a familiarization tour of Kitengela and Kajiado prisons, Principal Secretary State Department for Correctional Services Mary Muthoni noted that besides counseling ex-inmates and their family members, the government will, through the Hustlers Fund, give them capital to start their businesses.
Every time we engage the prisoners, the most frustrating thing that they are complaining about is, how do I start life after prison? And that is a space we are trying to equally bridge with our probation officers, who will speak to their families back at home.
She also disclosed plans to address the welfare of prisoners to restore their dignity while at the correctional institutions.
One prisoner, one bed, one mattress. This is a reality. We are working with private sector, development partners, financial institutions, and all other well-wishers who would want to come on board. We are welcoming them because this is open for all of us to help them have a better space to sleep, so that even tomorrow they will not go home as a bitter soul.
She at the same time challenged prison administrators to leverage on the products they manufacture to sustain some of their expenses.
We have our leather industry here, we have our soap making industry here, we have our farm, we have our furniture making industry here equally. So to look into ways of strengthening the same and ensuring that the rehabilitative programs that we have here are very key to the offenders.
For Prime Edition, I'm Zainab Said.
Well, that story on reintegration brings us to a first break on Prime Edition. Don't go away, I'll be back shortly. Stay with us.
Instant game. Be a daring pilot and earn by how much high you can lift the plane. The higher you fly, the higher your win. The sky is the limit. Mozart Bet.
Sina makosa we bwana.
Filmmakers, thespians, as well as stakeholders in the film industry converged at the KICC last week for a trailblazing evening.
My story is about the value society places on women.
Ilma's choice is about a young girl being forced into marriage by her parents.
To showcase is how the creativity in Africa is alive and kicking, and how important it is to give also some opportunity to young generation.
You're seeing your potential. Unafanya kazi nzuri sana.
Na tukilinganisha na zile recommendations ambazo tulipewa na Inspector Torome, we believe this is the right pit for you.
Hey! Unataka nini wewe? Unaniumiza. Unataka nini? Unaniumiza. Unataka nini kama utaki?
There are rumors that you have another family.
Rumors that I have another family. Well, this is my family and I think it's one.
What do you think?
Welcome back. Our socials at KBC Channel 1. My Twitter handle at Mboya24. Now, let's move on with this live broadcast and take you further afield, where former President Uhuru Kenyatta says that M23 rebel group has agreed to withdraw from more regions in North Kivu to allow for constructive dialogue toward peace in the Democratic Republic of Congo. M23, which has already withdrawn from Sakem, Shaki, Nenero, and Kilolirwe, will leave the Kichanga area Tuesday. Here's that report.
And Uhuru Kenyatta says the military track of operations towards peace and stability in Eastern DRC remains on course as envisaged by the East African Community Regional Force Mandate, with a ceasefire still holding between FARDC, M23 and other active armed groups for the last 3 weeks. Kenyatta says the withdrawal of M23 from Kitchanga on Tuesday will press forward to the march toward lasting peace in the region. Kenya, Burundi and Uganda, whose troops are on the ground, are coordinating operations to allow the free movement of goods and people and the delivery of humanitarian assistance to parts of the country affected by the conflict. Kenyatta says more of the armed groups are now complying with the terms of the Nairobi process and are more likely to be all integrated into the political track of the process in the future. Jacqueline Masharia for Prime Edition.
Well, now the government has started talks with the National Assembly to review the digital services tax and also the local ownership policy. ICT companies have been decrying the law that came into force in 2021, saying that it's stifling growth in that sector. Prime Cabinet Secretary Musalia Mudavadi has urged the National Assembly to fast-track the review of the Finance Act 2021 so as to unlock the investments in that sector. Mudavadi made the remarks during the ongoing Connected Summit 2023 in Diani, in Kwale County.
Last week, President William Ruto told investors that after 3 years of existence, the government is set to abolish the 15% minimum tax rate imposed on global ICT firms. The president told the American Chamber of Commerce meeting that the act has made Kenya uncompetitive, leading to low investment in the sector. Prime Cabinet Secretary Musalia Mudavadi has said the process to review the act has started with the National Treasury, the Kenya Revenue Authority and players in the ICT sector to repeal the law by the 1st of July 2023.
To encourage investors, let us make the environment better, and then when they are here, now they can either eventually through the stock exchange and others allow Kenyans to also be part of the business. But we should not have initial, at the very beginning, be obstacles in encouraging investment in the country.
Laws that are being proposed shall come to the floor of the House. They shall then go through a very rigorous process of public participation. But the idea here is to make sure that the laws are expedited and that Parliament does not become an unnecessary hurdle.
Cabinet Secretary for Information, Communication and the Digital Economy, Eliud Owalo, has said the ministry is working with the county governments to review the levy charged by the devolved governments on companies laying broadband infrastructure in their locality.
We are looking at systems which are self-financing, so that as you consume the services as a member of the public, based on what you pay, a proportion of it is plowed back into the system, and that is what we use for additional digitalization and digitization processes. So it's not going to be an extra drain on the
you get me?
We are looking at systems which are self-financing.
Whether it's county governments, your revenue raising mechanism is not by blocking the laying of a fiber cable. That is again misplaced.
We have said we are supporting this 100%, and I'm lobbying my colleagues to allow anyone laying fiber, if possible, they allow them to waive all the fees that are charged so that we spur that very fast.
Broadcasting and Telecommunication Principal Secretary Edward Kisiang'ang'i says the government will undertake a holistic review of the broadcasting policies in the country to help in the growth of the sector.
So what opportunities do you find in such a meeting that would likely make you start improving your revenues? And I think the government is willing to help you move to that space.
They were speaking during the ongoing Connected Summit 2023 in Diani, Kwale County. The 4-day meeting brings together more than 1,500 delegates from around the world to discuss emerging issues facing the sector.
The conference enters day 2. It also seeks to discuss issues to do with digitization, use of data for development, as well as elements of data privacy and digital trust. Wairi Mujenga from Diani in Kwale County.
Many thanks, Wairimu Nzenga. They're coming for us from Kwale Ndani. But my colleague O'Brien is also there, and he spent a bit of time in that workshop where the government was engaging with Parliament just to find ways of how they can leverage technology in providing services. O'Brien, if you can hear me, just paint for us a picture. You know, what were the highlights? There you are, O'Brien. What were the highlights there?
Well, thank you very much indeed, Mboya, back there in Broadcasting House. We continue our unrivaled coverage of the ongoing Connected Summit 2023 here at Diani, Kwale County. Of course, today, the official opening of the meeting with various speakers expressing and, of course, cementing the reason why we need to invest more in developing and, of course, expanding our ICT so that we ensure that even the underserved communities, we close the matched of the digital divide. Well, this evening on the set, we have the Principal Secretary in the State Department of Broadcasting and Telecommunications. This is none other than Professor Edward Waswa Kisiangani. We're going to discuss the role of the media in driving the ICT agenda, and of course what the State Department for Broadcasting and Communications has to drive or to deepen ICT services in the country. Thank you very much indeed, Prof, for joining us this evening. Of course, you've been part of these conversations around here, and you have listened to various speakers, and of course you have also been part of this conversation trying to deepen and drive ICT services in this country. What is the role of your ministry in doing this?
Thank you very much, Brian. That's true. I've been part of this. The role of the ministry is to make sure that it implements the government agenda in using ICT to improve the quality of life of our people. The president has been at the forefront on this, and even during his campaign, he made sure that the ICT docket becomes a separate docket from others, and it's an independent docket and part of the pillars of the Kenya Kwanza manifesto. And the belief of the head of state and of course the Kenya Kwanza leadership is that we can use technology to improve our business enterprises, to empower people financially, and to also make sure that our people access valuable information that can make them grow in their businesses and also in the acquisition of knowledge. Mm-hmm. So that is what the ministry is doing to support the government agenda to improve, to make sure that the citizens use the digital platforms to improve on their businesses, to enhance their production, and to improve on the quality of life they are living. Mm-hmm. So it is an important thing, and the ministry is a part and parcel of this arrangement. So it is a supportive role that we are playing to make sure that the government agenda succeeds.
Mm-hmm. Yes. When you look at the Universal Service Fund, which was created back in 2009, to help in financing projects and services in the underserved but unprofitable communities in this country or areas. How do we tap into these resources under the UFS to expand the services in the digital marginalized communities in Kenya?
We can do it many ways, O'Brien. If you look at the Universal Service Fund, which is actually domiciled at the Communication Authority of Kenya, with an independent board operating it, and the money kept at the Treasury, it does a lot of things. It has already done a couple of things which are useful, and it can do more. One of the things that we can do right now, we want to ensure that by June we have at least laid 5,000 kilometers of fiber. It is helping to lay fiber, and one of the big players in laying fiber through the Universal Service Fund is going to be the CA. So Actually, it does that, but it also improves connectivity in places like remote places that didn't have frequencies. It has helped to build the towers to make sure that people who couldn't probably access information through their mobile phones can get that. And it also helps to support other entities like the KBC and other government entities to make sure that even the frequencies for radio and the frequencies for the signals for radio, the signals for television are easily, mapped out so that they can access information. So it does quite a lot of things, and it supports a lot of communities in Isiolo, communities in Pokot, which indeed were not able to access certain services because there is no connectivity. So I think we can do more, but what the Universal Service Fund is doing is great. It also supports capacity building within the ministries, our ministry, to make sure officers are in good state to do certain things. So that it can't be overstated, in fact, that the Universal Service Fund has been very useful in helping the marginalized players. You can see the connectivity levels within our country is growing. We were probably hardly 20% 10 years ago. We are now going almost 70%, 80% in terms of connectivity. And the Universal Service Fund has been very, very useful in that regard. So it can still be used to do more products, because I don't think we have reached many places in our country. There are other places which really need to be accessed. Certain parts in Turkana, certain parts in Mandera, even at the coast here, there are certain places in Kwale which probably have not been reached, and the Universal Service Fund is providing money that lays infrastructure for connectivity, and once you are connected, financial inclusivity becomes very easy for our citizens. So, and even in schools where we need proper connectivity, it's helping a lot. Yes.
And I like the fact that you are bringing in the concept of infrastructure deployment, which is very expensive. It's quite an expensive undertaking.
Yes.
And it is true what you are saying. I mean, when you look at mobile telephony, we are almost 120% coverage.
Yes.
But when you look at the internet, this is where we are not doing so well compared to our peers like South Africa, Egypt, and Morocco, and so many other countries. We are talking about 43%.
Yes.
The plan is to move this to about 70% by the year 2025.
Yes.
What kind of resources are needed for us to get to this level?
The kind of resources that are needed are partnership. That is the main resource. Partnership between government and the private sector. We badly need that partnership, and you can see the president has been leading the way. You remember in the last Jamhuri, no head of state was invited to Kenya. Instead, the president invited tech companies to come and showcase what they really want to do. That partnership with Amazon, partnership with Google, and many other tech companies in the United States and Europe is enough to put resources. And what kind of resources do we want? We now want resources to improve signals in very many parts of the country, but we also want resources to lay fiber, because once you lay fiber, you get people connected to the information superhighway. Through this information superhighway, if they are doing business, they can still order materials for their business from other countries abroad, and then they can also sell their products abroad by marketing through the internet applications. So those are the resources we want. The main resource is to have a partnership. Government cannot have enough money to lay this, and it is not in the interest of government to prevent other players from playing a role in this sector. So our main agenda is to work with people who have resources, so that they give a breathing space to government, and these resources can help lay the fiber that will lead to internet connectivity across the country. And if we can reach 90 in a few years' time, 90% internet connection, a lot of our people will do their business, conduct their business in their bedrooms, in the compounds of the houses within their compounds, and then make sure that they access as many financial resources as they can. They can order, they can sell their products, make money while in the house. I think that will be very good. So we want to connect many households, not just in the urban areas, but in the villages, those remote places, by having this fiber laid across. And then the hotspots put in marketplaces, which can also enhance business transactions. Yes.
And it is true that the government has deployed so much resources, in ensuring that, Kenya becomes a digitized and a digitalized economy. From the digital literacy program targeting school goers to the Wi-Fi, to the public Wi-Fi hotspots that the government is rolling out, to Ajira programs, targeting young people. These are massive resources being deployed. But the communities, are our communities using these resources for their intended purposes? And I'm asking this because I saw a report on the free public Wi-Fi whereby it was indicating that more than 80% of users of these services, they are using them to download movies, to watch football, soap operas and music, as opposed to engaging in e-commerce.
I think the whole thing is we shouldn't emphasize that, because I don't think that anybody has data which shows that much of that facility is being used to just download movies. In any case, some of the movies, what you should worry about is if the movies are morally unacceptable. But some of the movies are good for our kids because they look at how others act. And since we have a whole state department for sports, the Ministry of Sports, and the arts, they can get role models. What is critical, and O'Brien, I'll tell you this, because a few weeks ago I was in Paris attending the UNESCO conference on internet trust. The challenge that Kenya faces on internet trust is just a challenge other countries are facing. How do we use internet profitably? It is a challenge across the world. For us in Kenya, we need to set standards in this field. We need to involve everybody. When you have your children in the house, they have finished school, they probably are waiting to go to college, or they have finished college and they are looking around for business opportunities. It is up to the parents to guide their children to look for the right things on the internet. If you go to a road and you want to be knocked by a car, you can be knocked by a car. But if you tell children, don't use the road, don't ride a bicycle on the road when the vehicles are coming, also using the same road, make sure you are safe, they will be safe. So we need, as a society, as national leadership, to tell our children, to guide the youth that this internet is not there to sell pornography. This internet is not there to bring in movies that attack our moral standards, but this internet is there to empower them with good information that can also help them make a living out of that superhighway. It's a superhighway for all of us. So it's not the responsibility of the government to keep pushing what the kids are doing. Once we get the infrastructure there, it's like you having a television in the house. You must also tell the kids that every time it's not watching television, and you must also tell the kids not to watch certain programs. You control that so they can do assignments. So it's our responsibility as a society, as everybody in the church, everybody who is involved in nurturing our youth, to tell them to responsibly use the internet. And even the adults like ourselves, we must also show by example that we can use the internet responsibly by doing research, looking for business opportunities, rather than downloading movies that are dangerous. But if the movies are also good movies that can show how other kids across the world, other people across the world are using their talent, then that should be encouraged. So internet trust is a big challenge, and we have to isolate the right things to be done on the internet, and it's the responsibility of the entire society.
Bonapiers, before I let you go, because I know you also have other commitments, what is your position on media freedom and freedom of expression, and how do we regulate these without stifling growth?
I think I'm happy you have asked that question. Just a few days ago, there were rumors by some of you in the media that the government was going to close media houses. the first agenda of media freedom is not to peddle rumors. Don't use your space to peddle rumors. I am in the office that has the government spokesperson. Nobody called me to clarify whether or not the government was going to close down Media House. Nobody called our minister to do the same. So I don't know where you look for information and you know the office which you should call. So these rumors, what happened a few days ago, maybe 2 days ago, is an example of how people irresponsibly use their freedom, and you peddle rumors, and before people realize, just like you did the other time, a few of your colleagues in media peddled the same lies about the former minister from Interior.
Of course, not KBC.
It was not KBC, but that is the danger. But my thinking is that surely we can still be responsible in reporting. The Constitution, which provides for media freedom, if you read the section from 34 to 38, including the freedom of assembly, this Constitution does not say you enjoy these freedoms while violating the freedoms of others. So the Constitution has certain framework where you can enjoy your freedom. It doesn't tell you to say lies. It doesn't say you take positions to abuse particular people. That's not the freedom we are looking for. The freedom we are looking for is you exercise it responsibly, so that in your movement, in your enjoyment of that freedom, you don't still hurt others. How many claims have come up from the media about our government? The media in the last election attacked our president. They said bad things about our president. They have continued with that position. What the government is asking them to do is that the president has been elected. He is the leader of this country and a responsible leader too. And the Constitution gives him that mandate up to 2027, when all leaders will go back to seek a mandate. So my appeal to the media is that government will protect media freedom, but it must be exercised responsibly, so that you don't peddle lies that come to be sensationalized to the point that they even threaten the existence of other people. And before you realize, people are burning houses on falsehood.
So it behoves the media to enjoy that freedom with responsibility.
With the responsibility, and the government has no intention of gagging freedom. You are a free place. We shall allow you to operate the way you want to operate, but you have also the ethical codes that you operate under.
Very good.
Please observe them, and this government will have...
In 30 seconds, what is your plan for Kenya Broadcasting Corporation? You've been talking about this in 30 seconds.
Kenya Broadcasting Corporation should be supported to communicate the government agenda. And the government will support Kenya Broadcasting Corporation. We are determined to support you. I think you know what ails Kenya Broadcasting Corporation. We have discussed. I have held a meeting with most of you. I have been in a session at the Kenya School of Government. We have a plan. The plan for you is to make sure that you operate professionally and even if you enter revenue streams, you must make sure that those revenue streams are sustainable. Kenya Broadcasting Corporation, in terms of communicating government agenda, that is the heartbeat of the Kenya government. And we are not going to leave you to start floating in the dark. We shall support you, unless you don't want to be supported. But if you really want to be supported, the government is willing to support you to correct the mistakes that were made in the past. We shall look at the strategic agenda you have, support you financially, morally. We shall do capacity building for Kenya Broadcasting Corporation. Of course, we are not going to protect Kenya Broadcasting Corporation in a way that you look like spoiled children. You must be ready also to compete with the rest of the media houses. Because the difference between Kenya Broadcasting Corporation and other media houses is the fact that you are doing public interest journalism as well as the commercial interest journalism. The other media houses are doing commercial interest journalism. So because you lose revenue when you are doing sometimes public interest journalism, a way must be found to support you to recover the lost revenues. And that is the determination of this government, to make sure that you operate. You soar high the way you used to soar in the 70s and 80s. That is where our heart lies.
We are with you.
Yes.
We'll support you.
Yes.
And of course, we'll offer you all the support that is needed to realize this dream.
Yes.
There is nothing else like Kenya Broadcasting Corporation. You and I, we agree this. Thank you very much for joining us tonight.
Make sure you have quality, you provide quality signals, make sure you provide quality discourses on television. You must part ways with the naivety and compete with the rest of the media houses. When you do that, government will support you, the public will support you.
And the fact that we are doing it here from the beach, that tells you that Kenya Broadcasting Corporation knows no limits.
You have an ocean of space across here, and you can still float, you can fly.
You can say that again.
You can swim on this ocean.
You can say
have
that again.
The space, and Kenya Broadcasting Corporation will soar again, and we support you.
Thank you so very much indeed, Bwana PS, for joining us here on the show.
Yes.
And of course, for outlining your mission for the Kenya Broadcasting Corporation for this great organization.
Thank you very much.
Your time is highly appreciated.
Yes.
Well, we've been talking to the PS in charge of broadcasting and telecommunication. This is none other than Professor Edward Waswa Kisiangani, outlining various measures that the government is putting in place to drive the growth of ICT as well as the reforms at Kenya Broadcasting Corporation. My name is O'Brien Kimani. Back to you in Broadcasting House, Tom Mboya.
Thanks indeed, O'Brien. And of course, the Prime Cabinet Secretary Musalia Mudavadi also urging the National Assembly to fast-track the review of the Finance Act 2021 to unlock the investment potential in the sector and, of course, as a result, also help in setting the stage for building an information superhighway for the future. We're taking our second break right here on Prime Edition. Remember, Betty Kip 2 Minutes is on standby with the latest in the day's business, and also my colleague Daniel Wahome with Sporty shortly. Stay with us.
To get Skizatune Hail Mary, dial *811 *963 hash.
Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou among women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus. Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners, now and at the hour of our death. Amen.
To get Hail Mary, dial *811 *963 hash, *811 *963 hash.
Nimesahau kucheza Loto Moto. Usisahau kucheza Loto Moto. Shinda milioni 2 kila siku kwenye M-Pesa. Chagua lipa na M-Pesa. Paybill number 757070. Account number andika neno Loto. Kisha weka star na nambari yako ya simu. Weka kiwango chochote cha pesa kuanzia shilingi 50 hadi 2,000.
Aulali.
Lipa kisha subiri draw. Welala. Nitakutimizia ndoto zako. Milioni 2 usiamini. Ujumbe huu umeidhinishwa na BCLB.
Welcome to Take on Tech. This is the show that keeps you updated on everything you need to know about technology.
First of all, the women that are already in tech should be empowered.
I've actually studied electrical and electronics engineering, telecommunications option. So basically I'm in the tech sector.
The government should empower the girl child in a way that they should venture so much into ICT.
There's never a dull moment with us. Tune in every Monday from 10:30 p.m. only on KBC Channel 1.
A very good evening to you. Thank you for keeping it Prime Edition here on KBC Channel 1. Let's get the latest in the world of business. My name is Betty Kiptum. Now, Kenya is going into space as it is set to launch its first operational observational satellite into space in its bid to provide the country with timely and regular data in fields such as agriculture, food security, and general environmental monitoring. Acting Director at the Kenya Space Agency, Brigadier Hilary Kipkosgei, says the mission will put Kenya on the global map for the contribution to the growth of satellite engineering and social-economic development.
The country's monitoring capabilities, as well as land use mapping in the fight against natural disasters.
Accurate weather forecasting information, up to 14 days weather forecast, accurate. And that is information that Mama Mboga there in the village in Kisii can go into, click a link and input the county, input the sub-county, include the ward. And that Mama Mboga will be able to see accurate weather information for the next 14 days. I think that is valid. That is where we are going.
Further, we want to spur interest in the country. So far, all the satellite imagery we use in the country is foreign. And it is not cheap as it comes. The ones that are free are not very high resolution.
The Kenya Space Agency is set to launch the first operational 3U Earth observation satellite, Taifa 1 satellite, on April 11th, 2023, and will be aided by Space Exploration Technologies Corporation, SpaceX, in Vandenberg Base, California, aboard Falcon 9 rocket.
The reason why we are using the launch facility in North America is because that is the nearest route to the orbit that we are targeting. Because this is a small satellite, we are not launching it alone. We are launching it on a ride-share program with other users or other customers.
Taifa 1 Sat is a stepping stone to the development of what is planned to be a constellation of small Earth observation satellites for Kenya.
Tasking a satellite and acquiring an imagery at will at the time that we want. And if we see the need, if we appreciate the importance of that or the value of that, then we can, invest in more capable systems.
It is also a capacity building effort for Kenya's engineers in space systems engineering, space operations, ground receiver station operations, mission control, and satellite data acquisition and processing, among others. Kenya's development in space systems engineering capabilities began with the design, development, and eventual successful launch of the first Kenya University nano-satellite, Precursor Flight 1 Kunz PF. The satellite was jointly developed by the University of Nairobi and the Sapienza University of Rome, with launch support offered by the Japan Aerospace Exploration Agency and the United Nations Office of Outer Space Affairs. Alanauko, Prime Edition.
Of course, that's some good news for Kenya, and we hope that satellite launch will be the first of many. Now, leaders in Embu are calling for amendment of the Crops Act to pave way for establishment of a Macadamia Board of Kenya and allow farmers to jointly market their produce. The leaders say selling as a block will cushion farmers from exploitation.
Available reports suggest that about 90% of macadamia crop is grown for export in Kenya, thus making it the second largest exporter and the third largest producer of macadamia in the world. Kenyan farms currently produce an estimated 41,000 tons, constituting about 20% of global supply. In 2013, the Crop Act was established to accelerate the growth and development of agriculture, enhance productivity and incomes of farmers and the rural population by improving efficiency of agribusiness and develop agricultural crops as export crops. Embu County leaders now want the act amended to bring the farmers together and ensure they trade as a block while cushioning them from exploitation.
Kwanza kabisa hiyo sheria ambayo iliwekwa ya kusema shelled macadamia should not be sold out of the country, tunataka hiyo regulation itolewe. Ndio wale walikuwa wanatununulia macadamia especially Embu wa China wakubaliwe walete wakuja wanunue macadamia na wapeleke huko kwa wakatengenezee kama tumeshindwa kutengeneza na bei nzuri hapa.
The leaders say a bill will be presented in Parliament for the establishment of the Macadamia Board of Kenya to steer the management of the nuts and in a bid to help farmers.
We have a look at macadamia regulation as a committee and see why the farmers are not well considered in that regulation.
Frederick Mwoki for Prime Edition.
What am I forgetting? Nini, workers paid, rent checked, mlango locked, visiting notice, ngoza mzazi nilitoa jana la internet zote. What is it? What am I forgetting?
Nini, nimesahau kucheza Loto Moto.
Usisahau kucheza Loto Moto. Unaweza shinda hadi milioni 2 kwenye M-Pesa. Chagua lipa na M-Pesa. Paybill number, weka 757070. Account number, weka neno Loto. Weka kiwango chochote cha pesa kuanzia shilingi 50 hadi 2000. Lipa, kisha subiri draw. Ujumbe huu umeidhinishwa na BCLP.
Welcome back. Now, all Carrier 1 and 4 geothermal plants in Naivasha are set for rehabilitation in a 6 billion shillings deal between the Kenyan and German governments. The partnership will enhance the government's target of increasing the use of renewable energy in the country by injecting a further 40 megawatts to the national grid.
Renewable energy sources generate over 80% of Kenya's electricity today, placing the country on its way to meeting its goal of transitioning to 100% clean energy by 2030. As of 2022, the country had installed over 170 megawatts of generation potential from solar power, with nearly 2/3 of that amount having been added to its grid in 2021 alone. In line with this, the partnership between the Kenyan and the German government will allow for extensive geothermal expansion that will see the country become a major exporter of electricity in the region.
Kenya is actually leading in terms of climate change, and we want to move it to 100% by 2030.
Additionally, it also aims to increase electricity connectivity both in urban and rural areas.
Kenya will be a net exporter of power to Europe. Wanaleta magari zao, tunauzia power, and will become a rich country as we export power to the rest of the world.
Stakeholders say the rehabilitation of the power plants will allow for sustainable development that will help reduce greenhouse gas emissions at the required rates.
This is what is contributing within and then the others to where Kenya is producing green energy so that our people can get jobs, so that our people can have more money in the pockets.
Ndutamo Kami for Prime Edition.
And savings and credit cooperative organizations should move with speed to create a more shared platform in preparation for the rollout of an intermarket lending framework. Cooperative Alliance of Kenya Chief Executive Officer Daniel Marube says the newly launched 800 million shilling platform will enable shared payments and inter-SACCO lending among other shared SACCO services.
The Cooperative Alliance of Kenya says its 800 million shillings tech platform will secure member savings and minimize cases of fraud in credit cooperatives.
Tech is aimed at uplifting our cooperative movement in terms of their financial operations, efficiencies and security to a higher level.
The Cooperative Alliance of Kenya says the platform is a precursor to the rollout of the Central Liquidity Facility this August.
This platform will be an enabler of cooperatives to collaborate together so that we can have a shared services to enable cooperatives and SACCOs to borrow from each other.
The SACCO interlending is expected to drastically reduce costs incurred by SACCOs to recapitalize to address short-term needs such as overnight lending.
Instead of each society or a SACCO spending 300 million to buy a similar system, collectively now we are saying that money can be given as loans to their members by using this platform.
The government is contemplating capping of inter-SACCO platform system sharing at 30 SACCOs in a raft of measures aimed at regulating inter-SACCO lending.
Be setting a reasonable number of SACCOs that one platform will be allowed to now provide service.
And that's about it for the business news this evening. Of course, my name is Betty Kiptum. I would like to leave you with this week's edition of the Cabinet. Now, he was one of the longest-serving member of President Daniel Arap Moi's cabinet, having headed 5 powerful ministries at different times. Moi's successor, Mwai Kibaki, would also include him in his cabinet. This week on the Cabinets, we focus on Christopher Mogere Obure.
Despite 2 hitches at the point of launching his career, Chris Mogere Obure would end up serving in 6 ministries, including that of Finance, Industrialization, Agriculture, Public Works, Livestock and Fisheries, Foreign Affairs, and International Cooperation. His political career started in 1969. He ran for the Bomachoge Basi constituency parliamentary seat and lost. In 1979, he ran again and lost again. In the 1983 general election, he won the seat. In 1984, he was appointed Assistant Minister for Labour. In 1988, during the Mlolongo Q voting general election, he won the Bobasi constituency seat. In 1990, he was then moved to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation and worked under Robert Ouko before his death. In 1992, Obure did not contest after the ruling party, KANU, ordered a repeat of its nomination exercise in Bobasi. Stephen Manoti replaced him. In 1997, he was appointed Assistant Minister for Transport and Communications. In 1990, he was appointed Minister for Industrialization and shortly after was moved to the Ministry of Cooperatives in the same capacity. Later on, he was appointed Minister for Agriculture, Livestock and Fisheries when ministries were reduced to 15. In 2001, Obure was elected as Bobasi Member of Parliament. From 2008 to 2013, he served as Minister of Public Works in President Mwai Kibaki's cabinet. He was elected as Kisi's first senator in 2013. He lost the Kisii gubernatorial seat in 2017 and 2022. He was appointed by former President Uhuru Kenyatta as Transport Chief Administrative Secretary. Jackie Wambiru, the Cabinet.
Nafasi yako ya kuwa mdosi wako. Jiunge na washindi tufanye biashara. Kuwa mshindi. Mozartbet.
It is April. It is football made in Germany. Tuesday night, the 4th of April 2023, the DFB Pokal returns to the first quarterfinals in Germany. FC Bayern Munich takes on SC Freiburg in a heavyweight clash at 9:45 p.m.
Oh, what's the goalkeeper doing? And if there's one person you cannot give the ball to, it's the super sub.
Wednesday, the 5th of April 2023 will see the defending champions RB Leipzig clash with on-form Borussia Dortmund at 9:45 p.m.
Here comes Riemann to get the ball away from danger. It falls Emre Can's way on halfway. Emre Can! That is extraordinary. Absolutely stunning.
Catch these momentous times in football history live and exclusive on KBC Channel 1. KBC Channel 1, your true sports partner. Sports News is brought to you by Mozart Bet.
Kurumisha ndege. Aviator instant game. Be a daring pilot and earn by how much high you can lift the plane. The higher you fly, the higher your win. The sky is the limit. Mozart Bet.
My name is Daniel Ohome. Let's get the sport. This year's WRC Safari Rally will have 19 special stages making up 347 kilometers in Nairobi and Nakuru counties. After the ceremonial start at Nairobi's Uhuru Park on Thursday, the 22nd of June, the crews will tackle the 4.81 kilometer Kasarani Super Special Stage before heading to Naivasha for an overnight stay. On Friday, the 23rd of June, there will be 2 runs of the stages of Loldia, Geothermal and Kedong. On Saturday, there will be 2 runs of Soisambu, Elementaita, and the tricky Sleeping Warrior stages. On Sunday, the final stages will be Malewa, Oserian, and Hell's Gate, which also serves as the power stage, to be followed by the prize-giving ceremony after this run. The Safari Rally is the 7th round of the 2023 World Rally Championship season. Finnish driver Kalero Van Pera and Jone Haltunen won the event last year, driving for Toyota Gazoo Racing. Now, Modi Gisheru and Aiden Gashora and Andrew Gadere are some of the winners of the 4th leg of the 2023 U.S. Kids Golf Spring Local Tournament held at the 18-hole Windsor Golf Hotel and Country Club in Nairobi. The next leg of the local tour is set to take place on the 11th of April at the Sigona Golf Club.
Mwadhi Gisheru won the 12-year-old category with 76 strokes, followed by Hayden Gashora and Andrew Gadere. In the 11-year-old category, Amar Shah was the champion with 73 strokes, followed by Kahil Ladak and Alpha Ndungujenga. In the younger boys category, who played 9 holes, Gitonga Gitobu, Niam Shah, Nawembo Lee, Ivan Kipiegon Kimusai, and Trevi Mungai took the places in the 9, 10, 8, 7 and 6 years old category respectively. In the senior girls category, who played 18 holes, Hazel Kuria won the 15 to 18-year-old category with 87 strokes, followed by Antonia Budhia and Cherish Washira. The tour will provide the junior players with an opportunity to qualify for the U.S. Kids Golf International tournaments by earning points for priority status. The junior golfers will also be looking to qualify for events such as Regional Invitational and the U.S. Kids Golf Regional Championships to be held later on this year. The next leg of the local tour is set to take place on the 11th of April 2023 at the Sigona Golf Club. For Prime Edition Sports, I'm Daniel Mwendwa.
Now, Strathmore University hockey team's head coach Meshak Senge says that they used the Kenya University Sports Association, that's KUSA Games in Eldoret, as part of their preparations for the new season. The Kenya Hockey Union 2023 League is set to start on the 7th of April, with Strathmore University's women's team, the Scorpions, looking to defend their crown as Gladiators. The men's team hope to challenge for a top 4 position. Both sides won the national KUSA titles with victories over Masinde Muliro University of Science and Technology teams last weekend. Scorpions will face University of Nairobi in the season opener this Friday. Now, on to Europe, where Tottenham Hotspur captain Hugo Lloris will return to the side as Spurs are facing Everton in the EPL now in a league match that's being played at Goodison Park. Meanwhile, French champion Paris Saint-Germain suffered a second consecutive defeat following a 1-0 loss to Lyon at the Parc des Princes Stadium in Paris.
Tottenham Hotspur captain Hugo Lloris returned after missing the past 9 matches with a knee injury. Ivan Perisic has recovered from calf injury, but Richarlison, Jens Bissoma, Ben Davies, Imasirayo are all unavailable. Everton manager Saint Dijk has reported no fresh injury concerns. Forward Dominic Calvert-Lewin is back in training, but is not yet fit enough for consideration, while winger Andreas Townsend remains a long-time absentee. Meanwhile, Paris Saint-Germain suffered a second consecutive defeat following a 1-0 loss to Lyon at Parc des Princes Stadium.
For the young star.
In the Italian Serie A, champions-elect Napoli suffered a third Serie A defeat of season as they were demolished by reigning champions AC Milan 4-0.
And now former world number one Daniil Medvedev won the Miami Open title for the first time by beating Jannik Sinner in straight sets.
Russian seed broke the serve twice in the opening set before powering to victory. This was the fifth Masters 1000 crown of his career and his fourth ATP title of 2023, following wins in Dubai, Doha and Rotterdam. Medvedev, a runner-up in the Indian Wells last month, continued his impressive form to win in just over 90 minutes as Sinner tired in the second set after putting up a fight early on.
The 2023 men's singles champion, Daniil Medvedev.
Well, and that's the sport for tonight. My name is Daniel Wahome, and back to you, Tom Mboya.
Sports News was brought to you by Mozart Bet.
Nafasi yako ya kuwa mdosi wako. Jiunge na washindi tufanye biashara. Kuwa mshindi. Mozart Bet.
It's okay. There you got me. I was extending an invitation to Daniel Wahome to come and remind us of some names beyond Waldegard, some of the big names during the rally. Hanu Mikola, Maku Allen, Walter Roll, beyond Waldegard, Sandro Munari, and the list is so long. I kind of like that story on the World Rally Championships that's coming up. Well, that's all we had time for. I want to thank you on behalf of the entire team on this day that the Director of Public Prosecution dropped charges against opposition leaders who were participating in what the government termed as a legal assembly and what some people refer to as Maandamano Monday. So thank you so much for watching. From Nairobi, Kenya, my name is Tom Mboya. We're going to do this tomorrow again. So good night and God bless you.